Hi, you are engaging in the ELA Guidebooks Unit, The American Revolution. The purpose of this video is to learn about different forms of government and why the American colonists fought a war to change their government from a monarchy ruled by a king to a democracy governed by the people. Be sure to have your handout available and something to write with for the video. It seems like everywhere you go, there are rules. At the library, we have to be quiet. At school, you need to raise your hand. On the roads, you can only drive so fast. Have you ever thought about where all these rules come from? Or who decides which people get to make the rules for everyone else? If you look at just about every country in the world, you will find many differences. But one thing is always the same: someone is in charge. In every country, certain people make the rules or laws that everyone else has to follow. These people are part of the government. In this video, we are going to be studying two forms of government: monarchy and democracy. To understand these forms of government, we need to look at two things: power and rights. Power is the ability to create rules and make people follow them. Rights are freedoms or things that people are always allowed to do, things that no one is allowed to take away from them. For example, the government has the power to set a speed limit for a road to keep people safe and will give you a ticket if you do not follow this rule. On the other hand, in the United States, you have the right of free speech. That means that you can talk about your opinions and no one has the power to make a law against that and throw you in jail for it. So let's turn to the roles a monarchy and democracy played in the American Revolution. The colonies were a part of Britain, which was a monarchy. Up until this point in history, most governments in the world were monarchies governed by kings. In a monarchy, the king or monarch has the power to make laws that people must follow. People have little or no representation in a monarchy. That means that people do not have a say in what laws get passed or who their leaders are. A person becomes king because they are born into a royal family, and kings can make laws and do not need to listen to what people think about them. A democracy, on the other hand, is a form of government that represents the people. In a democracy, people vote for or choose who their leaders will be, so it is the people who vote who have the power. In a democracy, power is shared between many different leaders that people choose. These leaders have to agree on something before it becomes a law, and if people do not like the laws they pass, they can vote to replace those leaders. The colonists believed that people should have rights that no king could take away, and that people should have more power. Let's take a moment to reflect on what you have learned. What are some things that are different about a monarchy and a democracy? Is there anything that is the same about these forms of government? Pause this video and fill out the Venn diagram at the first stop sign on your handout. Press play when you are ready to continue. Let's review. Both a monarchy and a democracy are a form of government in which someone is in charge, and both make laws that people must follow. However, in a monarchy, the king is in charge and has most or all of the power. A person can become the leader or monarch of a monarchy by being born into a royal family. Finally, in a monarchy, the people are not represented. They have little or no voice in who their leaders are or how laws get made. In a democracy, the people are represented and vote to choose their leaders. These leaders must agree on something before it becomes a law, and if people do not like the laws that they pass, they can vote for other leaders to replace them. Another difference between a monarchy and a democracy are people's rights. A right is a freedom that no person or government is allowed to take away. In a monarchy, people have very few rights, compared to a democracy where people usually have many rights. This makes sense because in a monarchy, the king has the power to make the rules, while in a democracy, people have the power to choose who their leaders will be. In the mid 1700s, the colonies were a part of Britain, which was a monarchy. The King of Britain, living all the way across the ocean, had the power to make rules that the colonists had to follow, and they had no representation or say in how rules were made. For example, the King of Britain passed a law forcing colonists to let British soldiers stay in their homes. Since the colonists had no representation, no say or voice in how laws were made, there was nothing they could do and therefore had to let the soldiers stay. How do you think this new law made the colonists feel? Pause this video and answer the question at the second stop sign on your handout. Press play when you are ready to continue. The colonists were angry with the British king. Having a stranger living in your home is hard and even scary. They would have to give them food and make room in their homes for someone they didn't even know. To the colonists, this seemed completely unfair. Many colonists believed that the king was taking away their rights or freedoms with his laws, and that this wasn't fair. They wanted to be free to create their own government, a democracy where people were represented and had both the power to elect their leaders and rights that those leaders could never take away. As you engage in the guidebook unit, be sure to think about why the colonists were not happy with the monarchy and why they wanted a democracy of the people, by the people, and for the people. When you have finished, please turn your completed handout to your teacher.